Hey everyone, I just finished, or I am finishing as of today, my first ever no spend month. And I want to tell you all about it, the good, the bad, and all of the struggles. So just keep watching and we're going to talk all about it. Hi, I'm Elena of Financialdemics. And at the end of 2023, I decided that I was going to do a no spend month at some point during the year. But I definitely was like, okay, January, I'm traveling, not happening. I knew I had a lot of stuff going on. And then February is my birthday month. So no spend month during my birthday month, never doing it ever in my life. But I told my accountability group for business that it was probably going to happen in March. And I had so much going on at the beginning of the year that I completely forgot until about a week before. So I was like, you know what? We are going to do this. I don't want to push it off because I have literally never been interested in doing one. I think I've mentioned on this channel before that I do have friends in the personal finance space and friends who are not in the personal finance space who have done no spend months. And they always said that it was a great way to kind of reset, save for whatever they need to save for. But for me, I have always been the type of personality when I need to pull back, I just pull back. And when I'm spending, I'm spending. So I am not a person who like buys clothes every month. I don't buy expensive items all the time without thinking about it. That's just not my personality. I am very much so a planner when it comes to larger ticket items, but I thought it could kind of help me with some of the smaller impulse purchases that I tend to make, because you know I have a fun money account and I tend to buy some nonsense. I'm literally looking at some nonsense I bought late last year that I used once and I decided it's not for me, and now it's in my house. So because I only had a week to kind of figure it out, I really did not go into it with a proper thought process and a full plan, but I did have a few things that I already had set. So I knew I wasn't going to do any eating out, which I don't eat out often, but for my cheat meal, I do try to eat out. I normally have a cheat meal once a week, and I do try to eat out because we cook a lot in this household. And so it's like, oh, I want to eat something outside of the house. I don't want to really work for my cheat meal. So I did know it was no eating out. I allowed myself to still make business purchases. I have 2 businesses and I needed to be able to continually run those businesses as needed, and whatever we needed, I needed to purchase. So because this was personal, it was just strictly my personal spending, and that was it. I really didn't fully plan this out. I told you I had like a week to figure this out. I didn't even research to see what other people were doing for their no spend months, and it just happened to coincide with my friend who has a Facebook group called Blessed in Budgeting. I'll drop the link below because you definitely should join her group. She was doing a no spend month in her group, so that kind of helped out. Also, I was just like, all right, like we're gonna do this. Now, I'll give you some pros and cons and some tips as I talk about my experience doing this no spend month. But one thing I definitely will say is you want to be prepared before you go into your no spend month. I was out in the stores because I knew a no spend month was starting the next day. What I will say is I wasn't just shopping just to shop, okay? Just like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to shop, so let me shop. No, I had stuff that I was supposed to purchase for myself for my birthday, but there was just a lot of things that were going on, and so I never made it to the store to purchase them. And so some of the items that I wanted to purchase, I was gonna need during the month, or use during the month, I should say. So I wanted to already pick them up. But also, like, you know, you get a lot of free things during your birthday month, like little freebies and stuff like that. And I wanted to go ahead and get those before the month was over. But what it made me realize also was I needed to make sure I didn't run out of certain items that I use almost daily. I would say make sure, like when you're going into a no spend month, just make sure you have with you what you need, especially if there are items that you're not allowing yourself to buy during the month. Like, just don't go overboard, right? Like, really do an inventory on what you think you'll need and make sure that you have enough. I would say another thing in my experience that I struggled with a little bit during the month was my cheat meal, as I mentioned. So my cheat meal, I didn't realize until the first that my cheat meal was going to be the Saturday and I couldn't eat out. Now, the one thing that worked out in my favor is that I had randomly went to Whole Foods like earlier in the week. I rarely go to Whole Foods. It's not necessarily close to me. I went with my friend, so she told me about this chicken meal or whatever. So I had that in the freezer, and that kind of saved me for the first week. But then for the next 4 weeks after that, what I realized is that I had to buy something to make and be prepared. And so as I had to plan properly, like for my cheat meal, and I saw the difference in buying that stuff, because it's not like I could buy singles, right? So you have more food in your house that you typically do not eat on a regular basis. And I could see the difference in my actual grocery budget that I spent extra money. In my experience, healthier foods do cost more, but because we don't have to buy as much like healthier foods, if you get what I mean, like because it's not prepackaged and stuff like that, we typically don't spend as much as if we're buying packaged food. And we kind of have a good idea because we have college age students, so we do buy those foods when they're home, but not when they're away. So I could see the difference. Like, I felt like my son was home in my grocery budget. So that was one thing. So, and then also just willpower, right? Because now I have this food in my house during the week when I'm supposed to be eating healthy, and sometimes like you want to just, don't want to have to cook. So you want to just be able to warm and make whatever really quickly. So that was one thing that I struggled with. One thing that was really good is I could see a complete difference in my fun money account. I don't give myself a lot of fun money, but I do give myself money to spend on whatever I want. And sometimes I would see, like, you see on social media somebody post something like that's on Amazon and stuff like that. I'm not always quick to buy. I tend to like fill up my cart and then make decisions. But it really did make me think a little bit longer about, do you really need this? Do you really want this? And now that I'm coming up, like tomorrow I could buy whatever I want, I'm really like looking at stuff I stuck in my cart and really deciding like, do I really want that or not? I also will say that because it's the spring, a lot of spring drops happen in March. So that was a little bit of a struggle for me, even though like, because I couldn't buy the thought process of, oh, maybe I want to, and then I looked at the items, was like, not really. I don't know. I think I would have spent money on something, even though it wasn't something I loved, just from the excitement of the drop. That's what I think now. Sometimes I'm indifferent about things. Like, there was a Target with Diane Von, can I say her name right? Diane von Furstenberg drop, and I love DVF. Like, I have a couple of items that I've had for years. And at first I was like, oh man, I'm gonna miss this drop. But then when I actually looked at it, I am not a heavy print girl. So I was like, okay, I feel a little bit better. And then there's some other drops that happened, like just happened, that I missed out on. And that's the kind of thing about a March no spend month, is like all the spring drops. But that's okay. They didn't sell out. So, I'm not like itching for the item. So it might be another thing that I'm gonna be like, forget it. I don't really want it that bad. I definitely think if you do a no spend month, like, you'll be able to save money. And I do think as you're saving, like, you should evaluate your spending and what you normally spend. And I think you should be moving that money either into your savings account or your investing account. Like, even if you're just doing it for a reset, I think you should move the money, because you don't want it to be a situation where it's like you're just waiting till the first of the next month and you just spend all this money again and you go overboard, right? You want to be able to see the benefits from it. So you definitely should shift more into your savings. And that's one thing I did do. I was investing a little bit more money in March because I was not spending the money. But again, I do have some items that I do plan on buying. I'll let y'all know if I buy them or not. One of the cons I would say is that, as I mentioned, like I went over my grocery budget because I did not take into consideration the whole thing with my cheat meal and like buying extra items to accommodate for my cheat meal, right? Because, you know, like if my cheat meals aren't fast food, but let's just use fast food for example. Let's just say Chick-fil-A. You know, when you go to Chick-fil-A, even if you spend $10, $12, I don't go to Chick-fil-A that often, but I feel like it's close in that range. Even if you spend that much, right? You spend it once and you're done, right? But then when I was kind of buying items to kind of put together a meal, I was spending a little bit more. I was spending a little bit more to put together the meal. And then again, I still had this food in my house. It wasn't like a one and done situation. So that was, you know, something that had an effect on my grocery bill. And as I mentioned in my paycheck routine video, like I have my grocery amounts in my same spending account where like my fund money is. So it's like I am very particular about going over my grocery bill because I want my fund money for myself. I don't want to dip into my fund money. And I just found that to be best because it keeps me in line. Let's say that it keeps me in line. So I realized that I had less fund money available. And I was already tracking what I was spending on groceries anyway. So I was like, yeah, this grocery bill is downright disrespectful. So that's just like one con. But I will also say another thing I struggled with is that we had a few nice days and I wanted my car wash, and not because I just wanted my car wash. We did have a snow, I want to say it had to be February, near the end of February, and my car was so dirty from that snow. Normally, like if it rains hard after, it will like take away some of the dirt that goes along with the snow, that residue that's left behind. And it didn't. And typically I get my car washed afterwards, but because of everything going on, I didn't. And so I kept wanting to get my car washed, and I did not plan that I could not get car washes during no spend month. Let me know below. Do you think you should be able to get your car washed during no spend month? Like a necessary car wash? Is it? I guess some people will say like you could wash your own car, but in my situation where I live, I would be paying to wash my car regardless. So like I couldn't get my car washed, and I kept saying to my mom like I really want to get my car washed, and she was the one telling me I couldn't get my car washed because I was doing a no spend month. So make sure you have an accountability partner too. That's another tip. Make sure you have an accountability partner to keep you straight when you're struggling. So yeah, so that was one thing I didn't plan for, or I would have gotten my car washed even though I knew it was going to rain that first weekend in March, but I would have just ate it and got my car washed because I've been struggling, and I'm be so glad to get my car washed. I would say another con, and it's not necessarily a con. I think it depends on the person, right? So my mother, and I've talked about my mother multiple times, that she is a saver. Like there is no absolute reason why she would need to do a no spend month. This lady barely spends. So I did feel, because I am not a person who shops every single month, you know, it may not work well for a person who does not shop a lot, right? But if you know you have a lot of Amazon packages coming to your house, maybe like you might need to consider. And then it depends on what you're buying from Amazon, right? Think about Amazon. If you're buying necessities for the household, then that's one thing. And that was one thing I was able to buy, is trash bags and toilet paper and stuff like that. But I couldn't buy the little things that I wanted to buy. I think it will work for people who are spenders and people who are typically savers, unless they just been in a consistent like spending situation, which I don't even feel is natural for them. I can see it working for them in that case, but truthfully, like if they're naturally a saver, I don't think it necessarily works for them, and they don't need it. But that doesn't mean they can't do it. I did have 2 slip-ups and then 1 almost slip-up during the time. Well, one I'm not going to call a slip-up. It was something we really needed for the house. So I want to say it was maybe the first or the second week of the no spin challenge. I did have to buy a power strip, and I guess I could say that was more so business because we needed it for a business purchase I unexpectedly had to make during the month. That wasn't really expensive, and again, like in my head, I guess it should be a business purchase, but I know I'm using it for everything besides business. So got a power strip. I also made a mistake like in the first week. I just wasn't even thinking. And this is why probably a no spin month is another reason why no spin months are good, because it curbs the impulse purchases. I signed up for a person's Patreon like in seconds. Didn't even like fully think it through. I just was like, oh, they got a Patreon. I like what they talked about. I haven't followed them for a while, and so I just signed up. When I got the alert that the $5 left my account, that's when it was like, oh shoot, you're on a no spin. So that was a slip up. I will say that in evaluating through the month, and even though the person is providing great content, I did cancel, so it won't renew for April, because I'm like, the whole point is to consider like what you're spending money on. Is it really necessary? So I'll just stick with their free content. And then I almost, like last week, I almost ordered some Starbucks. I really wanted a chai latte. So I ended up buying the items to make my own chai latte, which I don't mind making my own chai latte. I just don't like having the ingredients in the house, because that is not something I want to be drinking on a regular basis. But I've done good. I've only had that one, and maybe I'll have one today just to celebrate my completing my no spin. But yeah, so those are my two slip ups and my one almost slip up. Even though, actually, I'm gonna say one slip up and one almost slip up, because we needed that power strip. Like, there was no way we were gonna function without that power strip. We needed that. So I would definitely say that I would do a no spin month again. Overall, I did enjoy it. I do think it's like a good reset, especially now that it's starting to get a little bit warmer. We're outside more, and then we tend to spend more money. And I think for me, it was just like a good way to reset the brain and really start thinking about some of the purchases that I do make sometimes, and like whether or not I am using those items, or would I use that item more than once or twice, because otherwise it's like a waste of money. And so I think it was a good reset, just in general, especially with all the unexpected things that happened in my family for the beginning of the year. If you are looking to get your finances together, get in a better place financially, then definitely check out this video right here, and I'll see you next time with an all new video.